Hey, good morning, everyone. John Henry Soto here. Today, we're going to talk about being kind and being tough. Can you be both? Let's talk about it. It's 7 a.m., yo. Good morning, everyone. John Henry Soto here. Welcome. It is Friday. It is March 26, 2021, and this is 7 a.m. Welcome to the show. The answer to the question is no, you cannot do. Just kidding. So we're gonna be talking about kindness. We're gonna be talking about being tough and the delicate balance between both of them. Because in either direction that you go too far, one direction you can get taken advantage of. The other direction you can lose friends. So I think, or you can get punched in the mouth, right? If you're too tough and too much of a jerk. Um, Before we get started, I just want to give an acknowledgement to Dorothy Perez, uh, who sent me a very, very sweet message. She listens to the show and she's requested a couple of these Way to Happiness booklets, which, of course, more than happy to give her those. So I just wanted to say thank you very much, Dorothy, for watching and for checking out the show and for hanging out with us here in the mornings or whenever you consume this show. It is a podcast you can listen to later. And this video you can watch, or this show you can watch also later on as well. So, all right, let's get started here. So, talking about kindness, there's a couple of different things that I usually that come to mind. The first thing that comes to mind is my grandparents, my grandparents, because they were so different. Both of them were so different. My grandfather was they were both very kind. They were both very kind, but my grandmother was very tough. My grandmother ran the household. Now I don't know if this was a common thing back then. I don't know the whole women's movement. It was way before. I mean, they've been married. I mean, they were married a long time. I mean, by the time I was born, my grandparents were in their 50s and had been married for a while already. And so you start wondering about their communication between each other. And I remember my grandmother ran the household, and what she said kind of went. My grandfather would get upset, and they'd have their little discussions and stuff. But it was pretty much her. As far as towards me, there was nothing but kindness. They were very, very kind. My grandmother had a little bit more of the tough love viewpoint mentality, which wasn't even a thing when I was growing up. It came later on, but that's what you kind of held down to. And my grandfather was just about being kind constantly, and just a very, very sweet man. Um, and they both gave me really good foundations. My mother was just very sweet. My mother was always very nice. Um, life wasn't always perfect. Obviously, it never is. We had our issues, we had our dysfunctionalities, but there was uh, something about my mother that just believed that I can do anything, that we can do anything, my brother and my sisters, um, regardless of any kind of barriers that we had in front of us. We were, living in the projects at some points, or then, old tenement buildings. We were in the South Bronx. There wasn't a lot of economic growth there or opportunities. There were fires every night. It felt like there was just a lot of drug use, gang violence. I don't know what else you could. I mean, whatever else you could think that's not a good thing was in this environment growing up. And but my mother was always like, it didn't matter what it was. She would just say, "You can do whatever." This was her line. You can do whatever you put your mind to, and whatever you work hard for, and whatever you put your mind to. That was her line. Whatever you put your mind to. and whatever you work towards, work hard towards. But your mind was this thing that you always would just put your mind to, which turned out to be very accurate about making, manifesting things and creating your destiny. It's very spiritual. It's very, very controllable that people don't realize. And I found myself in a strange place because I kind of felt I know I can do something else besides what I was doing. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but there was just something always in me. And it was kindness that actually brought that along. If my mother had been the tough love, which she tried that at some times because there was a time where I didn't want to go to school. I thought school was pointless for what I needed to accomplish and for what I was interested in. I still have that viewpoint. um, and it doesn't teach you to be successful. It teaches you to get a job, to go get work. And I knew that instinctively. I didn't really go out and say that, but I knew it instinctively when I was younger. And so we had a little bit of issues me going to school, and my mom got a little bit tough with me at some points, but then she kind of was just like, do whatever you want. Finally, I did end up finishing school and going to college for like a minute. I think I got through the application, and I was like, man, this is hard. But the kindness part really was what created the foundation for the confidence to be able to go out and accomplish things. When you have constant invalidation in your life, um, or even the tough love can, if you don't know how to do tough love, and I understand the premise behind tough love, right? Um, but if you're not really skilled in that art form of being able to be tough but still caring and thoughtful and kind and all those things, then you can really screw up a child. um, Tough love is not something that you can just do with you know with expertise if you're just not really familiar with it, especially if tough love was applied on you and you're kind of taking that whole skill and that viewpoint on how to apply it to your child. So it's basically just a line of incorrect application of this tough love technique to every single person, down the line, and to their parents, from their parents, from their parents, from their parents. And it's obviously it's not working if the family isn't excelling, right? But my family did provide a lot of kindness, and also my extended family as well. I had a lot of aunts and uncles and cousins, and there was you had a couple of people. I mean, there was a couple of individuals in my family growing up that were the covert kind. You have to look out for those things, right? The kind of people that would say, "Yeah, everything is fantastic," and as soon as you leave, they'll got the knife to your back, right? Um, they sound like they're very caring. But as you get older and you start training and you start realizing about life and you start doing certain exercises about life and you start studying certain things, um, you start realizing how to identify those characteristics in people that are out to harm you, right? They're suppressive people, and that's where this whole kindness and toughness really boils down to. If you're not providing a safe space for your family, uh, confidence where your child can go to you, or where you can go to your parents, or you can go, or your friends can come to you for advice, for help. If they feel alienated by you, then the tough love or the kind or whatever it is that you're doing is not working. Because the last thing I want is my children to not feel comfortable to come to me with whatever happened, anything. I tell my daughter, I tell my son's only 4, but I tell my daughter, who's 10 years old, I say, listen, I want you to come to me with whatever it is. I don't care what it is. If you did something wrong, I don't care. I'm not going to punish you. I'm not going to yell at you. We're just going to talk it out. We're going to figure out what happened, and I'm going to try to make it better, and I'm going to try to help you with that thing. You don't have to worry about that. And she does. She comes to me with stuff, and I think I think that works. Now, I get a little bit of flack from my wife because she thinks I'm too kind, or I'm too soft, or I let them do whatever they want. Maybe to some degree I am that way. It's just that's the way I was raised. I wasn't raised with a tough uh, iron fist, or any type of hitting. I was never hit as a child, never, and I've never hit my children. It just doesn't work. I mean, if you need more proof than going into the ghetto communities where I grew up, and seeing those families basically beat themselves, or verbally abuse themselves. If you think that helps, I mean, the proof is right there. It just doesn't help. It just doesn't work with anything. So I don't do it. I don't do it. And yeah, I do get tough on certain things, and they have to go to bed at a certain time because we got to get up early, and we got things to do. Um, so there's a little bit of that, but it's usually done with a lot of what we call, it's three components to understanding, and it's affinity, reality, communication. Those three things equal understanding. If you can have affinity meaning you like something, you like the person, or you just the overall likeness of something, right? Reality, having the same reality with someone who likes, I don't know, an example is somebody who just loves heavy metal and somebody who just loves soft jazz. Their reality might not be there. So their affinity, reality, communication will be off, meaning their understanding won't be right on, won't be at a good level, right? And then third one is communication, which is the art of saying something to someone, having them duplicate it, right? And then say something to you, and then you receive it and you duplicate it. And that is a communication cycle, right? That is how people talk. I listen to people talking sometimes, and it fascinates me, communication, because they don't, and it happens a lot with parents and children. Their parents sometimes don't feel they want to listen to their children because they feel that, I'm the parent. You just do what I say, and that's it, without listening. You know, and right there, you've broken down affinity, reality, communication. Right. So there's no understanding. The child doesn't understand why you're not listening to me. Just listen. And it may be something that you can't do for the child. You can't give the child candy every 12 minutes, right? You have to listen to the child, right? So these three components equal understanding: affinity, reality, communication. So I use these a lot. And I go back in time before I knew these concepts. Um, and I go back in time and I think about the conversations I had with my grandparents and with my mom. And there was always those three components. There was always those three understandings. And, your best friend and you have those. When one of those things breaks down, you have what's called, we say for short ARC, affinity, reality, communication. You have a break in that, right? And when that breaks down, right, when you break that down, um, you have a fight, an argument, that just, somebody's angry, somebody's upset, right? When one of those things breaks down, right? Especially, communication, right? When somebody's not talking to you, they're not answering the phone, they're not responding to your email. There's a frustration there, that it's basically a break in affinity, right? Because suddenly you don't like the person right now because you're like, why won't they answer me? There's no reality in it because you can't understand why you're not doing. And of course, the communication is broken down. So these three components I use a lot in my life, in my everyday world, and I I use it a lot with my children because it's the only thing that really I know for a fact that for the last 26 years of my life work. By the way, there's also a lot of stuff I can send you if you're interested. This booklet has a lot of information that, this is very concise. It's a very small little booklet that we give out, but it has amazing stuff in it. Um, and if you're interested, there's 21 precepts in here that um, very a common sense guide to better living. Um, you can go back and check those videos out. I did 21 episodes, one on each one, on this show here. So you can go back and check out those precepts. But I use this a lot in my everyday life because it just makes my life so much easier if I can communicate with someone and find out where they are. And growing up, listening to people having communications, and I go back and I listen to my family's communication, and the overall thing that they had was kindness. That was the overall foundation of everything. It was just being kind to one another. And by now, let's talk about being tough, because by being kind, sometimes if you're too kind, if you let people get away with things, then there's someone can take advantage of that, right? And then we talk about the tough part. Well, what does that mean, the tough part? Well, the tough part really boils down for me as responsibility. You know, um, taking responsibility for actions, and having others take responsibilities for their actions. That's where the toughness part comes in. I think a lot of people think that tough is walking around going, "Oh, I do whatever I want, and you can't tell me what to do, and you're gonna do this now," or um, a boss of a company comes in and says, "I need these reports on my desk in the morning, and if they're not there in the morning, you're all fired." I don't know if that happens anymore, but but that type of toughness does not really go too far in 2021. It might have been something in the old days where there was some weird thing got into society and into business where that became a thing. Um, I know you go back and you listen to stories from Steve Jobs, or maybe not from Steve Jobs, but people that knew Steve Jobs knew that he was a rather kind of a tough guy in pushing for the vision that he had. And I think when you're creating probably the most famous product to come out of this planet in 100 years, um, I think that maybe the printing press was the the one before. But in order to do that, you have to be sort of like not. You have to sort of push that way. And again, I don't know. I don't know Steve Jobs. I didn't know Steve Jobs. Um, but those that knew him have stories about him, and when so many people have the same type of stories, you have to kind of think that there's some truth to it, right? He was just a pretty tough guy to be around. um, he ended up obviously getting sick, unfortunately, and he passed away. um, and just think of how much more stuff he could have actually put together. I think the company also suffered a tremendous loss because their visionary is gone, and he pushed them. So there's a difference between pushing somebody to do well and then just being mean. Being tough doesn't mean you have to be mean. um, and that's really the difference that we're going for here. Is you can have kindness, and you can have toughness. You can have mental toughness right on your own. You can also hold people accountable for their actions and make them take responsibility for it. And you can also then be mean, right? All these things, mean does not fit into the equation here. Being mean is just you're a jerk, right? And a mean businessman is a failure. Doesn't matter how much money he makes, right? Or she. You're just mean, right? You're just a mean person. And Maya Angelou, she has that famous quote where she says, people, I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but she says, people won't remember what you did or what you said, but they'll always remember how you made them feel. And that to me rings so true, because you can go back in time, and I don't remember all the specific conversations I had with my grandparents. I don't know what they said. I don't even know what they did in particular, but I do know that they made me feel good. They made me feel confident. They made me feel like I was loved, and I had a place to go to. So even when I moved out, ooh, excuse me, I had to take a sip there. I forgot to buy milk, so now I'm drinking black coffee, so it's a bit rough. Um, but even when I was moving out, and I moved out, I always knew that I had a safe place to come to if for some reason things didn't go well for me on the outside world. I can come home. I can come home, and there was always a place there. And I still have that comfort, even though my grandparents and my mom are gone in physical form. I do know that um, if I needed to stay somewhere, I can call my brother up, and he'll let me sleep on the couch. If I can call my sister down in Florida, my brother and my sister down in Florida, I can call my sister up in the Bronx, and she'll say, "Come on, you can stay here." I know that I have places. I have nieces and nephews that will also take me in. I also have some other cousins as well. So and I have friends. I'm very, very comfortable with the idea that if I suddenly find myself without a place to go, I will have a place to go. So I'll always have a place to go. And that's a comfort. And that's the same thing that I hold for all of them if they ever need a place. And I got that because of my grandparents and my mom. I was able to, I don't talk about my dad in case anybody wonders. I never met my dad. He kind of took off when I was about, I think when I was about 3 or 4. I don't really remember him at all, but there was a void that was filled by my grandfather as a father figure, and my grandfather was the best father figure that any person could have. He was older, so we didn't do the playing ball thing and throwing the playing catch and all that stuff. I do that now with my son, but I didn't feel like I grew up missing out on anything. So that's why you don't hear me mentioning him a lot. But wherever he is, if he's still alive, God bless him, and may he be well. And if he's you know good things always, right? Good blessings for all. So but I knew I had a place to go to. I knew that I was supported by my family. And to sum up a little bit, the kindness is the number one rule, is how to get anything, right? The whole thing about you can catch more flies with honey than with the vinegar, or I think that's whatever. It's not really catching anything. That sounds a little violent when you just want to catch somebody with kindness, but you want to actually, with kindness, you can make people, not only can you make them feel better, but you can also have them as allies to you and to your future and be there for you if you ever need them with kindness. With meanness, you can't. You can't. When you're mean to people, and it happens to me now, people have been mean to me in the past, and I'm just not there for them, and I don't mean that in a very mean way. I mean that in the sense that I can't be there for someone who I know it just doesn't deserve my kindness. Now, am I going to be kind to them if they're in front of me? Absolutely. If they ask me for something and they really need help and I can do it, there's probably 99% chance that I'm going to actually do it anyway, because that's just who I am, and I want to actually be there for them. But do I feel good about it? To be honest and to be 100% transparent, no, I don't. I don't think that I would want to do that. I think that when someone makes you feel bad, that sticks with you, you know, and that's the overall lesson. It's like, try to make people feel good when they leave your space. Try to make them feel like, that person was nice, and when they see you again, have them feel happy that, hey, there's that person that made me feel good. There's an energy thing going on here, right? It's a spiritual connection that we all have towards each other. um and it is a powerful thing. You ever walked in a room and you feel either people have been talking about you or you feel the presence of love, and that you're happy to be there and they're happy to see you. It's like, pay attention to those moments. Pay attention to your conversations that you have with people. Words matter. Words are important. How many of us can look back at our childhood and remember specific words that were told to us that really hurt, and moments that made us feel bad. you know. They're powerful things, so we have to be very cautious in how we actually spread them and how we communicate to one another, especially in these times right now. It's important to communicate your viewpoints, but if somebody is kind of trashing you or being mean to you or calling you names or making you think that you're a Nazi because you have certain viewpoints, well, that's not nice. That's mean behavior, and that's on them. They're living with that meanness in them. And as far as I have sympathy for that, but I definitely don't have any connections to it. I just want to distance myself from the meanness, right? That's what we all want to do, is distance ourselves from the meanness. It goes into the what I talked about a couple of days ago about the five people around you. If you have five people that are mean to you, or if you have one person that's mean and four that's kind, well, that one person that's mean has got to go. Listen, you gotta be like, listen, man, you're just not a nice person. I know we've been friends for 50 years, but I can't. I think I just realized something. I think you just don't make people around feel good. I think you need to go away. And that's fine. You don't have to hang around somebody that makes you feel bad, right? That's your prerogative. All right, folks. I want to thank you for tuning in this morning. Just remember, be kind, and that's really the overall thing. You can be kind and you can be tough, but the toughness comes from making people be accountable for their actions and you being accountable for your actions. When you do these two things, you're able to then be kind, make people take responsibility, and don't be mean. Right? Those are the takeaways from this morning. All right, folks, take care of yourselves. Make today great. Have a great weekend. I will see you all on Monday morning. Don't forget, we do a show with my wife on Sunday nights at 7 p.m. You can tune into that. It's the Your Wholesome Journey show. It's basically her show. I'm sort of like her sidekick. But she presents her wonderful art, which I got this mug with her art on it, which is awesome. You can get this mug on her website, yourwholesomejourney.com. And yeah, so it's pretty cool. All right, folks, thank you very much. God bless you all. Have a wonderful weekend. Make today great. Do things that you love. Take care of yourselves. And I will see you all on Monday morning. And as always, peace.